morning. Over the weekend, mass shootings involving multiple shooters in Philadelphia and Tennessee. Police are appealing to the public to come forward with any information about the attacks.
The January 6th committee will be holding its first primetime hearing this Thursday. Top Republicans say they're prepared to take the hit and respond to it.
Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, was hit with missiles for the first time in over a month. Ukraine says it has retaken half of the city of Severodonetsk after troops reported more fighting in the Donetsk region.
Good morning. Welcome to NTD Daybreak. I'm Kevin Hogan.
Good morning, and I'm Evelyn Lee. Happy Monday, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. It's June 6th, and we kick off the day with a quick catch-up of what happened this weekend. Unfortunately, we have more shootings to report on. 3 people are dead after a shooting near a bar in Chattanooga, Tennessee, early Sunday. Police say there were multiple shooters, but are still trying to confirm how many by looking at video and evidence from the scene. Witnesses or anyone with more information is asked to contact authorities. Police say in total 14 people were shot and 3 were hit by vehicles leaving the area. Of the 3 dead, 1 was killed from being hit and 2 died from gunshot wounds. Out of the victims, 16 were adults and 1 was a juvenile. Several of them are in critical condition. Police say the shooting was an isolated incident, with some of the victims being targeted, although the motive is still unclear. No suspects or victims have been identified yet.
And another mass shooting in Philadelphia late Saturday night left 3 dead and 11 wounded. Police say the shooting in the entertainment district of the South Street area started after a fight between 2 men. The men shot each other and 1 was killed. After that, multiple shooters opened fire. The other victims are believed to have been innocent bystanders. Police officers on the scene say they saw several active shooters shooting into the crowd. One officer returned fire, striking one of the suspects, who then dropped his handgun and ran. There were no immediate arrests. At least 5 shooters are believed to have been involved, according to police ballistic reports. 2 handguns were recovered, and police say they're still looking for 3 more. According to officials, there were several other shootings in the area that night, and they're investigating to see if they are related. Authorities are urging witnesses to come forward and offering a $20,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest.
Retired Wisconsin Judge John Roemer was murdered in his home on Friday. The suspect was found in the basement of Roemer's home with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was brought to a hospital in critical condition. Police tried to negotiate with the suspect. The killing is apparently a targeted attack. Court records show the 56-year-old suspect, Douglas Uday, was sentenced to 6 years in prison by Roemer in 2005 on a charge of armed burglary with a dangerous weapon. Authorities say they found a hit list among the man's possessions, and on that list were the names of U.S. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers. Uday hasn't been charged yet with the judge's killing. The Wisconsin Attorney General says the suspected gunman had people on his hit list who were a part of the judicial system. He didn't say how many or who they were, but that everyone has been notified.
Yeah, it's reported that all the government officials on the list have been told about it. It's believed to have been an isolated incident, and with the suspect in custody, they're not expected to be in any danger.
That's terrible. Maybe more will be learned from the suspect if he survives.
That's such a tragedy. Judge Roemer was a leader in a church and was said to have a special needs son.
And a grand jury indicted former Trump advisor Peter Navarro on Friday for contempt of Congress charges. Navarro refused to cooperate with the January 6th committee's probe into the Capitol breach. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more.
How y'all doing today? How are you?
Navarro was indicted for 2 counts of contempt of Congress. One count is for failing to produce documents requested by the committee, and the other is for failing to show up and testify after being subpoenaed. Navarro says he wasn't informed he needed to turn himself in, and was arrested by an FBI agent while boarding a flight in Nashville. Former President Donald Trump's attorneys argue the requested information is protected by Trump's executive privilege. Navarro says since Trump invoked executive privilege, it is not his privilege to waive, and any negotiation should be with the former president and his attorneys directly. Members of Congress have called the formation of the committee a violation of House rules, making its subpoenas potentially invalid. They say House Speaker Nancy Pelosi did not appoint committee members in agreement with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. McCarthy's attorney says the resolution authorizing the creation of the panel allows the Minority Leader to have 5 seats selected by the Minority Leader. But Pelosi appointed only 2 Republicans selected by her, Representatives Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. Many Republicans condemned the January 6th committee, calling it a partisan witch hunt. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
And the House January 6th Select Committee will hold long-awaited hearings this week. The lawmakers plan to unveil their findings during their investigations into the Capitol breach a year and a half ago. Now, Republicans are prepping a strategy to respond to this hearing that's expected to make the headlines this week. NTD's Washington, D.C. correspondent Melina Weisskopf has more details for us this morning. Good morning, Melina. Top Republicans say they're prepared to take the hit from this hearing to respond to it. So talk to us about their strategy.
So Republicans just unveiled this weekend that they're prepared to have a strategic response to this hearing later on this week. They're going to be responding in what they're calling a rapid response fashion, which means they're going to be joining tons of media interviews. Stefanik, which is the House Republican Conference chairwoman, she says that they've already set up a number of interviews to respond to whatever is unfolding in that hearing later this week. So actually, Stefanik said she's working with Leader McCarthy, Jim Jordan, as well as President Trump and his team themselves to sort of plan this strategic response. And it's important to keep in mind, Leong, that Leader McCarthy and Jim Jordan were subpoenaed by that January 6th committee, but have till now not complied with those subpoenas.
And are there any hints what Democrats will be focusing on during these hearings or what their end goal is?
Yeah, so of course, Democrats say that what they're telling to the public is that they're getting to the truth of what happened on that day. They want to unveil those details that they found so far. But it's important to keep in mind that the timing is important here because midterm elections are right around the corner. So this messaging will play a key role, and Democrats will be able to use this in that messaging come November. Now, one of the top Democrats on that January 6th committee, Jamie Raskin, he says that they're going to be unveiling what they found on the money trail. He says that they're going to be unveiling how money played a key role leading up to that event on January 6th and even that day itself. So that's what he has said, and that's what Democrats are preparing for. So the way this hearing will look, it will have a mixture of live witness interviews as well as some pre-recorded interviews, including family members of the former president. So that hearing will start on this Thursday, and we'll follow those developments and keep you updated throughout the week. Leong, back to you.
Thank you very much for joining us this early. Melina Weisskopf, live from Washington, D.C. this morning. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Coming up, Ukraine's capital Kyiv was hit by missiles early on Sunday for the first time in more than a month. At least one person was hospitalized, though there were no immediate reports of deaths. And World War II veterans gathered to commemorate D-Day, the Normandy landing, where Allied soldiers sacrificed their lives to defend the world against tyranny. We'll have more for you right here on NTD Daybreak. Russia struck Ukraine's capital Kyiv with missiles early on Sunday for the first time in more than a month. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials said a counterattack on the main battlefield in the east had retaken half of the city of Severodonetsk. Here's NTD's Kostem Ines with the details.
Ukraine said Sunday's airstrike hit a railcar repair works. Moscow said it had destroyed tanks sent by Eastern European countries to Ukraine. At least one person was hospitalized, though there were no immediate reports of deaths. The strike was a sudden reminder of war in a capital where normal life has largely returned since Russian forces were driven from its outskirts in March. Ukraine accused Russia of carrying out the strike using long-range air-launched missiles from as far away as the Caspian Sea. Recent weeks have seen Russia focus attacks mainly on front lines in the east and south. Occasional airstrikes in other regions have been reported as part of what Russia refers to as a campaign to weaken Ukraine's military and block Western arms shipments. Ukrainian soldiers near Bakhmut in Ukraine's Donetsk region on Sunday were under regular fire from Russian troops, but so far they were able to hold their positions. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in his nightly address that he visited troops in Lysychansk and in Soledar, some of the most heavily bombarded frontline positions. He added that he was proud of everyone he met and communicated with. Something was brought for the military, but I will not detail it, he said. Zelensky was also in the southern city of Zaporizhia earlier Sunday, where he said he'd met the mayors of some occupied towns. Russian President Vladimir Putin warned the West that Russia would strike new targets if the United States started supplying Ukraine with longer-range missiles. If such missiles are supplied, we will strike at those targets which we have not yet been hitting, Putin was quoted as saying in an excerpt of an interview with Rossiya One's state television channel. Not naming targets, Putin said the fuss around Western weapon supplies to Ukraine was designed to drag out the conflict. Costa Menes, NTD News.
NATO kicked off its Baltops naval exercises in the Baltic Sea on Sunday with more than 7,000 personnel, 45 ships, and 75 aircraft from 16 countries participating. The newest addition to the drills include Finland and Sweden. Excuse me. The two countries are looking to join the military alliance as concerns over Russia's war with Ukraine grows. The annual Baltops military exercises were initiated in 1972. NATO says they visibly demonstrate the alliance's commitment to preserving regional peace and security, and they do that by exercising a team of international forces that can rapidly respond in a time of crisis.
South Korea and the United States fired 8 surface-to-surface missiles early on Monday off South Korea's east coast. According to South Korea's defense ministry, North Korea launched a barrage of short-range ballistic missiles the day before. The Allies' live-fire exercises involved 8 Army Tactical Missile System missiles, 1 American and 7 South Korean. The missiles were fired into South Korea's eastern waters over 10 minutes following notifications for air and maritime safety. That's according to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff and U.S. Forces Korea. The tit-for-tat missile launches were aimed at demonstrating the ability to respond swiftly and accurately to North Korean attacks. That's what the South Korean military said. The South's military on Sunday detected North Korea firing 8 short-range missiles over 35 minutes from at least 4 different locations. It appeared to be a single-day record for the country's ballistic launches, and it was North Korea's 18th round of missile tests in 2022 alone. Its leader Kim Jong-un must be desperately in need to prove his strength.
And the country is also hit by COVID-19. He probably wants to negotiate economic and security concessions from a position of strength. South Korean and U.S. officials say North Korea is preparing to conduct its first nuclear tests since September 2017.
And on Sunday, following North Korea's multiple missile launches on the same day, the U.S. held a joint drill with Japan. Officials said in a statement that the exercises were to demonstrate the readiness of the U.S.-Japan alliance to respond to regional threats.
And talking about strength, 78 years ago on this day, Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy to push back the German forces. Today, we remember their sacrifice and what they stood for.
D-Day, June 6, 1944. 160,000 Allied troops land on the beaches of Normandy to fight the German army.
It looked like 4th of July when we were going in there because all the searchlights and the anti-aircraft guns going off. And of course we could hear the flak hitting the plane.
You heard all the sounds of the men on the beaches, bombs, machine guns, men shouting, screaming. The war was in my ears, if you know what I mean, because I had headphones on.
78 years later, and veterans and civilians still gather to remember those lost on this day in 1944.
The first thing we remember are the poor lads that didn't come back. We were lucky. I mean, it's a long time ago now. It's nearly 80 years ago now since there. And here we are still living. I mean, I'm 97 now. But we think about that, all those poor lads.
7,000 boats pulled into shore that day, but not all those who landed survived. Over 4,400 Allied soldiers died, of which 2,500 were American. Over 5,000 left wounded.
Suddenly I thought maybe some of those young men that I spoke to on the radio that day had died.
World War II veteran Raymond Wallace had his own story to tell. After his plane was hit, he was forced to jump earlier than anticipated. He then spent 10 months in a German prison before being liberated.
When we started hearing that flak hitting the plane, we all got a little scared then. And then whenever the guy dropped us out, we were away from where the rest of the group was, then it was scary.
Normandy, the first French village to be liberated from Nazi occupation, still filled with gratitude, cheering D-Day veterans as they marched through the streets.
And you know, Raymond Wallace was actually hesitant to even say that he was proud of what he did. And he also says he feels he didn't do that much.
But we know that every individual's sacrifice was immense. Each sacrifice was vital to keep values like freedom and integrity safe from tyranny.
Absolutely.
And to prevent something as horrible as the Holocaust from ever happening again. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is expected to face a confidence vote today. The British leader was booed at Platinum Jubilee events over the weekend. Johnson has been under growing pressure following damaging reports over parties held in his Downing Street office and residence when Britain was under strict COVID-19 lockdowns. Dozens of conservative lawmakers have voiced concern over his ability to govern Britain amid rising fuel and food prices and travel chaos in London because of strikes. Several of them requested a confidence vote to the chairman of the party's 1922 committee, Graham Brady. Should Johnson lose a confidence vote, he would be removed as prime minister, followed by a leadership contest to decide his replacement.
And in the world of tennis, Rafael Nadal won a record-extending 14th French Open by crushing Norwegian Casper Ruud 6-3, 6-3, and 6-0 on Sunday to claim an all-time best men's singles 22nd Grand Slam title. The 36-year-old Spaniard has lost only 3 times at Roland Garros since his debut in 2005. Now he has 2 more majors to his name than Swiss Roger Federer and world number 1 Novak Djokovic of Serbia. Nadal, seeded 5th, cruised through the opening set and backed 11 games in a row after being broken early in the second. He converted his second championship point with a backhand winner down the line to stay on track for the calendar Grand Slam after also winning this year's Australian Open. You know, Nadal was playing with pain in his left foot, right? He had multiple injections to 2 nerves throughout the French Open, so he was basically numb. And he said he wouldn't, if it would have been any other tournament, he probably wouldn't have persevered.
He's so determined. I mean, this is his 14th French Open title. He gained his first at the age of 19. And, you know, this must be a great deal to him.
He said he will be playing at Wimbledon, which is later this year, if his body allows him to, of course.
Yeah, for sure. He's going for those Grand Slams.
Good for him. And coming right up on this Monday morning, the story of a little girl with autism that's thriving with her homeschooling, and her mother who took a leap of faith by taking matters into her own hands. That and more coming right up. A Starbucks in Ithaca, New York, is closing its doors. The workers say it's because of their union vote. In April, all 3 Starbucks locations in Ithaca voted to unionize. Then on Friday, the Starbucks informed its employees that the location near Cornell University will close in 1 week. Now, union leaders believe the closure was an attempt to intimidate them. Workers United, which represents Starbucks employees, plans to file a formal complaint with the National Labor Relations Board. Starbucks says displaced workers will have the opportunities to immediate openings at the other Ithaca stores.
The world's largest hotel chain is suspending all of its operations in Russia. Marriott International announced Friday that it will no longer be conducting business in Russia because of the invasion of Ukraine. In March, Marriott announced the closing of its corporate office in Moscow and would be putting the opening of any new hotels in Russia on pause. Friday's action takes its initial response much further. Marriott says it has also taken steps to support Ukrainian refugees, providing housing in 85 of its hotels in neighboring countries. The hotel chain says it has also donated $2.7 million to Ukrainian relief organizations.
After learning that she didn't need any formal qualifications to homeschool her daughter with autism, a Florida mom created a child-led learning space herself and saw her daughter thrive at home. Now she's reassuring other parents that they can do it too. It hasn't been an easy road for the Perkins since they learned their daughter Amelia has autism right before the pandemic. Unfamiliar with autism, Fiorella said she panicked. When Amelia was formally diagnosed in 2019, she had to sideline her fear in favor of action.
I think there's a struggle with parents who have kids on the spectrum. They get kind of stuck. My child is just refusing to do any of it, and so therefore I need somebody who's specialized with these types of students or kids, and that's just not true. All you need is consistency, patience, and love.
The 30-year-old Florida mom left her career as a microbiologist to become a full-time stay-at-home mom and started homeschooling her two daughters, 2-year-old Sylvia and 4-year-old Amelia.
I found out that there was a lot of families with kids on the spectrum who were homeschooling. I didn't even know that was even an option until I saw it on Instagram.
Unlike other kids her age, Amelia wasn't talking, didn't make eye contact, and wasn't playing. Immediately after the diagnosis, Fiorella took action and brought her to speech therapy. However, when the pandemic hit, things had changed. She knew she had to do it herself.
Especially for parents who are coming into this with newly diagnosed kids, don't get overwhelmed or discouraged. Get educated, become empowered. There's plenty of resources. You are more than capable of helping your child if you are willing to, and that's really all you need. Learn and get the help from professionals for sure, of course, but know that at the end of the day, you dictate your child's futures, not the therapies.
She then began researching more, and when kids started going back to preschool in 2021, she didn't feel comfortable leaving Amelia with others, as she wouldn't be able to communicate her needs to them.
She gets overwhelmed easily, especially in social situations. As far as like her own safety too, I was concerned that she wouldn't be able to, come back and tell me if something happened.
Apart from academic goals, Fiorella also helps Amelia with life skills, such as self-care, brushing her teeth, going to the bathroom, getting dressed, and socializing.
She is talking now. She can verbally request things. She can come and get me. She can communicate with other family members or people around her way more effectively. Her social skills have improved greatly. She seeks out to play with other kids. She'll imitate what other kids are doing in the park or imitate what her cousins are doing. She can sit down at a table for longer periods of time now and really work on an activity.
However, parenting Amelia outside the learning space is not without its challenges.
Of course, she cried and fought back when she got frustrated, which is completely understandable. But at the end, she realized she could do it. And so the more we did that, the less she cried and the less frustrated she became.
Fiorella's personal philosophy is not to focus on what Amelia can't do, but rather on how to help her do it.
I don't focus on the meltdowns because I know that's going to happen. I'm focusing on how we're going to get through it. And so once we get through it, I praise her and I make sure, hey, look at that. We did it. We did it together. You see, you can do it.
She said that a parent must learn to dismiss the expectations of others before they can properly advocate for their own child.
I feel like parents always want to meet those benchmarks that are set for them by pediatricians or teachers or the school system. And when you're homeschooling, you can kind of let go of that and just go by where your child is at. Meet your child where they're at and go from there.
Fiorella even started her own community on Instagram called Growing on the Spectrum, sharing their journey of homeschooling an autistic child, but also creating a space for Emilia's friends to gather and for herself and her husband to connect with other parents in a similar situation.
We cannot adapt the public school system to every child, but we can adapt homeschooling to every child, because that's the point of it. The education completely revolves around the child's needs. So although I do think that some kids benefit a lot from public school, I don't think it's for everybody, but I do think homeschooling is for everybody.
Oh, absolutely adorable. Actually, Fiorella started her own community on Instagram called Growing on the Spectrum, and she connects families just like hers together.
That is one dedicated mother. She's just doing something so good.
I know, right? We just love that. Another mother being superhero story. And moving on to movies that open huge usually see their ticket sales fall by at least 50% in their second weekend out. But a certain high-flying sequel is defying the odds and setting records. You can take a guess right here. Here's David Daniel with the weekend box office top 5.
I thought maybe this one.
It makes you look like King Zog of Albania.
Downton Abbey, A New Era picked up $3 million, falling to 5th place. The Bad Guys are still zooming along. $3.3 million put the animated adventure in 4th place. The Bob's Burgers movie stayed in 3rd, taking in $4.5 million.
Things just got out of hand.
$9.3 million kept Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness in 2nd place.
We're going into combat on a level no living pilot's ever seen.
With no new challengers, Top Gun Maverick fell just 32% in its sophomore weekend, grossing $86 million for a 10-day domestic total of $292 million, already Tom Cruise's highest-grossing film ever at the domestic box office. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Well, we'll see whether Top Gun Maverick has the firepower to stay #1 next weekend when Jurassic World Dominion roars into theaters.
Oh, that's a good point. I'm actually really excited for that one already. Anyway, that's all for today's NTD Daybreak. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.